Hare Krishna. Today is Sunday, 20th of December. On behalf of ISKCON Scarborough, I would like to welcome each one of you to this 10th successive month of virtual classes, believe it or not. So we are in this beautiful month of Marga Sirsha, which is also called as Keshava Mas. Krishna says, Masana Marga Sirshoham. Of months, I am Marga Sirsha. We are fortunate because this year we had Purushottam month, which is Adhika Mas, or the extra month, which appears once every 3 years, which is very auspicious, followed by Damodar month and now Marga Sirsha. We will take as much as we can during this COVID era. And today we are honored to welcome back Bhaktimarga Swami to give his 4th class since the pandemic started. And I would like to make a note of it so that you can go back to ISKCON Scarborough's website or to YouTube and revisit those classes and relish those contents as well. So Maharaj gave a class on the 7 purposes of ISKCON, and Maharaj also gave 2 Bhagavad Gita classes, one on 8th and 9th verses from the 15th chapter, as well as from the 14th verse of the 15th chapter. And here we are today. The topic is very apt because it's called as Christ and Krishna. And we know we're very close to Christmas as well. And as we mentioned, all our classes are recorded and posted in our website as well as in YouTube. So a little bit about His Holiness Bhaktimarga Swami. Maharaj is popularly known as the walking monk, and he took the monk's life in 1973 when he was 20 years old. And prior to becoming a monk, Maharaj he's actually from Ontario, Canada, and was a college student of fine arts. And as we know, his walks are extensively and internationally featured on radio, television, in the newspaper, etc. So with that, I would like to invite Bhaktimarga Swami to speak to us on the topic of Christ and Krishna, to shed light, in fact, sunlight, if there is any contrast, and more importantly, on the similarity. So we again kindly urge all of you to mute yourself to avoid any background noise. And in the last 10 minutes, we will pick up the questions and we will ask Maharaj. Over to you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you again for this great opportunity. And as you mentioned, I guess I've been with you for 4 times. Thank you for keeping tabs like that and monitoring so meticulously, Ananda Gauranga. I really appreciate that you're such a detailed man. I'm not quite the same, but we are going to get into some details, at least in our topic of discussion to do with Christ and Krishna. First of all, I would just like to start with my invocational mantras. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisance unto him. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Now, Prabhupada's personal pranam mantras. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namani. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvashi Shishunyavadi Paschachade Shatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasani Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai. Thank you very much once again. So we're talking about, because it is near Christmas time, celebrated December the 25th. And we thought we'd talk a little bit about Christ and what he means to us, those of us who follow the Vaishnava tradition, the tradition of Vishnu / Krishna. So just like Vishnu and Krishna are one and the same, in many ways, Jesus or Christ and Krishna are the same. They share a lot of similarities in terms of their output, their teachings or doctrines, their pastimes even, you know, and I think we'll explore that a little bit today. Srila Prabhupada, he quoted Jesus Christ. Prabhupada, our Guru Maharaj, had been taught at Scottish Church's College in Kolkata when he was young as a college student. They were basically missionary teachers from a Scottish background. So that means that they had a Christian upbringing, and in their own subtle way, they would be trying to convey the message of Jesus. And you may wonder why they would be trying to do that when already for most attendees, the Hindu boys and girls, what would be the need for telling something that was already known? So one thing that Prabhupada had used, he mentions Jesus Christ in the Bhagavad Gita about 5 times. And one quote that he gives that's very significant to us is that whatever profiteth a man if he gain the entire world, but he loses his soul. Let's take an example of somebody like Alexander the Great. And he went to attack India. And I believe it was Emperor Porus, who was the very tall and mighty Maharaj or king at the time, who was under attack by Alexander, who came from Macedonia, area of Greece. And, you know, so that, and India and Greece have had always shared their cultures together for a long time. There's evidence of that even in Greece, there's a monument to honor one particular king who was recognized as a Vaishnava. So Greece is oftentimes referred to as the place which is the birth of what's popularly now Western civilization and Western thought. And then India is the place where we have a proliferation of Eastern culture, Eastern thought. So we compare the notes a little bit, and you'll be surprised that, hey, there isn't really so much difference after all. From the West, we also have influences from the Middle East. We have the Abrahamic religions, most notably Judaism and Islam, and Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And then from India's side, we have what's commonly known as Hinduism, and people in the land of India have shared the limelight or the spotlight religiously with other faiths for a long time. But within Vaishnavism, we have followers of Shiva, followers of the Shakti culture, that is the goddess and the god, and we have Vaishnavism. And again, we can say there's lots of comparisons. Judaism is an interesting term, means you follow the Jewish faith. Christianity means you follow Christ. Islam, oftentimes referred to Mohammedanism, means you follow Muhammad. We say Hinduism, which is a common term, it's a misnomer. Prabhupada points that out. It's a word, Hindu, given by the Persians that indicate people who live along the Sindhu River. And so S is not pronounced very strongly, comes across like an H, so the name stuck. But maybe one day we can call our faith Krishnaism because we follow Krishna. We don't say for the Jews, Judaism, Jordanism, because the Jordan River runs through the land of Israel. And by the way, I had a chance to walk through Israel and also take a swim, a bath in the Jordan River. But we don't say Jordanism or Jordanism, but it's called Judaism. So people hold to their terminologies, and maybe one day people of the Vedic faith, that's the broader term, can use their own language and insist upon it, and to be a little bit bold and have some conviction and do what other faiths and people of other countries could do. So, no, you can't call us Hindus because there's no such thing as Hindu in our holy books. It's only a geographical term. We are Krishnaites, or we are Sanatana Dharmis. So that's what you're going to call us now. Okay, like one day we have to put our foot down. Maybe we have to talk to Mr. Modi about that one. Okay, so let's look at, people are going to be celebrating the birth of Christ. Christ, which usually means defined as the anointed one, the blessed one, is sounding very similar to the word Krishna, or in some places in India they say Krishna or Christo, So there's various versions of the way you say Christ, Christos. So it's very similar in many ways. One time when Prabhupada was in Australia, someone asked him, what about being Christian? And Prabhupada said, Christian, Krishna, it is practically the same. Christ was born in a manger. That means he was born in a place where there was farm animals kept, most notably cows. And so he was born in humble circumstances. When Krishna was born, which usually at the tail end of our summer, we hear about at Janmashtami time, pundits at that time usually speak about the birth of Krishna. And surely he was born in humble circumstances also. He was born in the prison of Kamsa. Yes, in a jail cell. That's where he was born. Mystically, Krishna was taken by his great father, away from this prison, and was carried across a river, the Yamuna, to a safe place where cowherds were residing, most notably Nanda Maharaj, who became Krishna's stepfather. So his biological father brought him over to his stepfather, or foster father, Nanda Maharaj, in their home. And we can also look at their birth circumstance in terms of Christ being born through an immaculate conception, like his mother Mary was conceived by God. And in this way, she was pregnant or impregnated by God in some divine way. And then when we hear about Krishna, his birth is similar because his father Vasudeva meditated on Vishnu, and then his thoughts were transmitted through the ether into the mind of Devaki, and that's how she was impregnated. So divine or immaculate conception. Immaculate means clean, free of any material inebrities, super clean, squeaky clean, pure. Pavitram, it's a Sanskrit word, pavitram, absolutely clean. Oftentimes when we see pictures of Jesus, he's portrayed as a shepherd, oftentimes carrying a staff, a stick of sorts, what shepherds may use in order to steer the sheep. And by the way, I have this amazing image in my mind. When I walked the Israel Trail which goes through the country, some areas through the rocky, dry deserts. In some places it goes through some of the orchards, the vineyards, and places where they grow the olive trees. And some of the trail goes right along the Mediterranean Sea where there's ancient Roman ruins. It's very fascinating. And so I just remember in my mind seeing this herdsman of sheep, a shepherd, who had all these sheep that was running along the trail. And we had, myself and my walking companions, we had to skedaddle on out of there. We had to move out of the way just to accommodate the sheep, you know. So Christ is oftentimes portrayed as being a shepherd, and Krishna himself is portrayed as being a cow herd, looking after particularly the calves, not so much the bulls and the cows, because he was just a youngling at the time. He was just a youngster. And along with his gopas, his buddies, cowherd buddies, they would also steer with sticks the calves and take care of them. And Krishna's name also is Gopal, which means he's the friend protector of the cows. Or you want to use it in more modern day terms, linguistics, Gopal, he's the pal of the goat, which means the cows. So there's parallels there with the images of Jesus Christ and Krishna. Going back a little bit to the birth, there was an orderly given out and people were in curfew because there were some tyrannical rulers reigning at the time when Christ was born and when Krishna was born. There was this King Herod who had heard that there was an adversary, someone who was going to be born, and it was prophesied that someone would slay him or that he would be usurped at least. So Herod put out an orderly there, kill all the male children, because the prophecy said something of a male child would come out to be the king of kings. And so he set out this order that all male children born within a recent past will be slain. So there's a word that's called infanticide. Infanticide means that it's oftentimes, sometimes referred to as a noun, explaining someone who kills infants. So Herod was such a person. He had earned that. And in our Vedas, we have also infanticides, such as when the children were killed in the time of the Mahabharata, the sons of the Pandavas were killed during this episode of the sleeping sons in a tent or a marquee. You know? So, but the famous infanticide artist during Krishna's time, or his birth, was Kamsa. And Kamsa, during the time of the wedding of his sister Devaki, had heard a prophetic voice from the sky that said her 8th son would be his slayer. So ever since that time, he was quite upset and very defensive, and almost did it bring his emotions to the point of killing his sister on her wedding day. That's part of the baby Krishna birth pastime. Let's look at a few other similarities. We're talking about the birth. Let's talk about the passing away or the disappearance of these two personalities, Jesus and also Krishna. So it's known that Jesus, when he was 33 years old, he was what we call crucified. and accepted this crucifixion. He did not run away. He accepted the torture, and it's understood that he was bearing the sins of his followers, absorbing the karma, which is something that Krishna does too. Is that if you submit to me, I will take your karma. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarvapapebhyo moksha shami mashucha. Krishna is stating in chapter 18, text 66 of the Gita, that he will agree to absorb karma, and so that you can be free, or we can be free. Those who submit to him will be free. All that you have to do is surrender. In Krishna's pastime of leaving this world, which we find in the Bhagavatam, he was struck accidentally by a hunter. His name was Jara. And while Jesus was slain or crucified with sharp nails, Krishna was taken, his life was taken, in a sense, by a sharp arrow that struck his foot, what we call the lotus foot. Well, he has 2 feet, both are lotus-like, very, very beautiful. And he was struck by that. And then what happened was Krishna pardoned the vilifier, the culprit, and he just pardoned him and he gave him liberation. And then Krishna himself rose up to his own abode. So in the case of Jesus, Jesus also rose from the dead on the 3rd day from the crucifixion. He rose, his body was taken into a cave, and it was covered. But then the cave opened up. There was a stone that was rolled in against the hole, so his body would be protected. But then it was discovered that later on, the aperture, there was an opening for that cave, and his body was relieved, or he left. He was removed, or removed himself. So it was like a divine exit, divine entrance and divine exit in the case of both personalities. And we cannot say that their deaths are ordinary, just like we would about their births. So in this way, there was a divine passing, and that's quite unique also in terms of when we, us ordinary mortals, leave our bodies, we're put into the ground and we stay there, more or less. The bodies stay there, or if it's ashes in the case of cremation, then we're ashes, and our ashes are placed somewhere, usually in a body of water. So the circumstances for the departure of Krishna and Jesus are very different from our own. So there's something that can be said about their teachings. The real glory of Jesus, it's about his teachings. Now, there's a very strong belief amongst a lot of people in the New Age community, especially, that Jesus left the Middle East, the place where he was born, and when he was in his teens, around 12, 13 years of age, he went traveling, and he was, there's a common belief that he went east, and that he spent some time with the Athenian scholars. Again, Athens, which we mentioned earlier on, was known to have great thinkers, and we all know, we've heard of them, Plato, Pythagoras, and others who were great, let's say, gyanis, we can call them, great analysts of life, great pundits. Greece had its own pundits. And so it is understood that Christ spent some time with them. He also spent some time with the Jains, people of the Jain movement. And that whole spiritual or religious society was invoked by or initiated by Rishabdev, one prominent person in that lineage. His name was Mahabir. And so again, saints. Jesus was with the saints. Jesus traveled further east, and we know that he, or at least there's common theory that he went to as far east as the Bay of Bengal, to Jagannath Puri, and there he mingled with the Brahmins, what we call the Pandas. And there was some altercation with them, as far as I understand, with the Pandas, or the priests at the temple there, and that's quite common even to this day in the state of Orissa, which is, rubbed right against the ocean, or the Bay of Bengal, or the Indian Ocean. The pundits or the priests are very finicky about who can enter the temple there. And, yes, even to this day, if you're not born Hindu and you don't have some kind of basic background, you don't come from the right clan or family, then you're not going to be allowed to come in. So anyways, it's very understandable that Jesus must have expended time with scholars of these different backgrounds, the Hindus, the Jains, the Greeks, and so on like that. And also, I failed to mention, he also spent some time with the Buddhists. Buddhism has already taken hold, and since Buddha himself was prominent 2,500 years ago, Christianity, you can say, took its birth a little over 2,000 years ago. And he had this company, he shared time with Brahmins of these different communities. So would it be correct to say or to assume that his, whatever he gained from their company, he assimilated all this information and came back to the Middle East to teach what he had learned from visiting these places, being on a pilgrimage. So his teachings were about love, and so one of the commandments, you can say one of the prominent ones during his time, I'm not talking about the 10 Commandments, I'm talking about his own commandments from the New Testament, are to love the Lord with all thy heart, all thy soul, and all thy mind, thy strength, And then Krishna has a similar kind of statement about this, in this vein of exclusivity. He was saying that love the Lord with all the, Krishna saying, Manmana Bhavmat from chapter 18, just prior to the verse that I gave earlier on, where he talks about surrender and submission. He's talking about Manmana Bhavamat Bhakto, meaning have your mind fully engaged in me, love me. Majad Bhava, the word Bhava means love me. And so in this way, it's like, don't give attention elsewhere. Chapter 10, text 2 from the Gita, Krishna is saying, come to me, and I am the origin of all. And it's not to the demigods that you have to give so much attention, nor to the sages or the rishis. They do not understand me. They do not know my origin. It's myself that has to be understood. And you can do that. You can do that through bhakti. Also a verse from chapter 18, Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktyamam avijananti yavan yaschashmi tattvataha. So Krishna is saying it's through love that I can be known. It's through love that you can come close to me. So in that regards, Christianity and Krishnaism really teach the same doctrine in the end. It's really all about love. And it's not about hate. Hate is the thing that brings us to this world in the first place. Now, in the other commandment that's very common that comes from Jesus is love your neighbor as much as yourself. So there is the Vedic aphorism, which is known as the golden rule, where you do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Chanakya Pandit made those statements. He said three things that Prabhupada would echo. And he said that, see all women as your mother, not as something to exploit. A woman is not a meat market. A woman is not something to covet. A woman is someone to respect and to see like your mother. Matravat Paradarishu. And then the other thing that Chanakya Pandit, who's a member of the Vedic community, I should clarify that he's from India, and he was a great advisor to one of the prominent kings of Indian history. He then said, see all other people's possessions as garbage in the street. In other words, don't take interest. You don't need to acquiesce more than you already have. Whatever you have, be happy with what you have. Do not be lustful. Do not be greedy. That's the message. See it as garbage in the street. Why would you go and pick up somebody's garbage? Of course, we know some people pick up cans, and that's kind of common in the big city because you can get a nice return from bringing the cans in. You can make some money on that through the recycling process. I know that at Trinity's, what's called Trinity Square, at the downtown Toronto, at what's that place? Escapes my mind right now. It's a young person's place, and there's a lady there who comes and she picks up all the cans that are left behind in the bag. She comes routinely all the time, that whenever we do kirtan there, and so I guess she's got a job. She's got a job. That's the closest I could come to a term like when it comes to the golden rule, which matches up as far as I could get to love everybody, love your neighbor as much as yourself. So treat everybody like you would want to be treated. That's the third injunction, you can say, strong instruction that comes from Chanakya Pandit as filtered through Srila Prabhupada in his teachings. Three good messages to carry home with you. Treat all women as your mother. Number two, see your neighbor's possessions as garbage, not to be greedy over. And number three, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Good stuff, really good stuff. Let's see. When I was walking through Fiji, it was one beautiful day. Fiji has beautiful weather. It just rains, at least the time that I was there, which was, I think it was September in 2008. It rains just lightly as the sun's coming up, and then it doesn't rain anymore. It's just the sun is shining. And it was one day that I walked, I was by myself this one time, but Krishna saw to it that I wouldn't be alone. It was practically the one day that I was by myself. There were no other Vaishnavas to join me. And there was a man standing just next to the road where I was walking. And his name was Johnny. And I could see also from the skin and his facial features that he has like a Hindu background, fine features and everything like that. But he had been Christianized, and he admitted that. So first of all, I was walking, I introduced myself, how are you today? I'm not so good. I said, what happened? I lost my job today. They fired me. I said, oh, that's too bad. I feel very bad for you. And I said, I have to I have to support my family. I said, gee, that is kind of unfortunate. And it's too bad it happened on this day when I met you. And I said, well, you have some free time. Would you like to join me? In his boots and his coveralls and everything. And he said, no, I'm Christian. I said, oh, well, Christian? Well, that's okay. I'm a Christian. I follow Krishna. And Krishna states in his book, Bhagavad Gita, that he is the Father. And Christ, or Jesus, he says he's the Son of God the Father. So the Son and the Father get along well together. They shouldn't have any issues. They both have a spiritual objective. That is they come here, both Jesus and Christ came to this world to help, to deliver mankind, or humankind, just to put a little PC in there, be politically correct, to help, to elevate the consciousness of men and women. They both came to this world, so they don't have any qualms with each other. And similarly, there should be no problem with you and I coming together. So the man was kind of a gentle person, and you could see it was quite simple. And he accepted my offer, and we started walking together. And we started walking, and he let me do my chanting, my japa, and we also did some talking while walking and talking. And we went all the way down to the Lautoka temple, which is one of the major cities in Fiji. And Fiji is the place where there are lots of Hindu folks. And it's predominantly the Hindu country. And so we have established a temple in Lautoka. And it is when you go inside, there's the deity of Krishna, who's dancing on the Kaliya serpent. And so it's a beautiful deity. So before going into the deity's temple, Johnny, who was with me, we came to the gateway and we met some of the temple administrators. And I told this Johnny, they knew I was coming. I didn't have a cell phone, didn't have one in those days. And, it was just kind of planned that they would be there to see me when I came. And so I was just introducing them to Johnny, and he said, oh, that's very nice. And he just decided to be with me for the day. And so I said, okay, well, Johnny, he's in his work clothes and everything. Well, we'll get him cleaned up. So he went to take a shower. And then I went in for darshan, that is viewing the deity of Krishna in the temple. And I spent some time there. I was chanting, and it was noontime now, and I chanted my Gayatri mantra and everything. And then I came back outside in the courtyard of the temple, and then I met Johnny. Johnny was actually not in the courtyard, but he was in the kitchen, and he was all clean, wearing, like Vaishnav clothes, all white, and he was washing the pots. And he just had this big smile on his face, oceanic. And the administrators were also happy and smiling that he had come to this point of, meeting me. And then, I think he was doing the Christian and the Krishna thing, the Christ and Krishna thing, which is to serve, which is to love, and show kindness and gentleness and warmth and accommodation. And even though Jesus says that I am the way, the truth, and the light, no one cometh unto the Father but through me, he was open to having everybody come to him. That's the point. Krishna is the same way. Everyone can come to me. I'm open for anybody. I'll accept all. I don't exclude anybody. All you have to do is demonstrate some love, demonstrate the service attitude, right? The seva, S-E-V-A. Seva means service. This is a Sanskrit word. And it's really the seva attitude that saves us. You know, sometimes we hear about some Christian friends, they say, we have the only religion. Some Jews say, we are the chosen ones, chosen by God. And sometimes we hear Brahmins say, we are the ones who are exclusive, and we will go to God because we are Brahmins, we have the status. And we monopolize, you know. So this, in Islam, same thing. We have these fanatical moods and attitudes. It's absolutely wrong, you know. And in fact, devotees in Australia had asked Prabhupada about the Pope, and where does he stand in our tradition? And Prabhupada said, oh, he's very good. He's bringing people to love God. And then devotees were thinking, well, he doesn't follow the four regular principles. You know, he eats meat, or there's a tradition amongst the popes, they eat veal, like young calf meat. And but Prabhupada said he is bringing people to God. So it changed the perspective that devotees had, sort of judgmentalism that sometimes lurks. And, oh, you're not a good dude. You eat meat. Oh, you're a karmi. Oh, you're a demon. Oh, you're dark. And we are, I mean, these kind of notions sometimes arise in devotees who are not very mature in their approach. Prabhupada, in fact, clarified, he said that anybody who brings people to the state of loving God, they are actually, they are pure. There's something pure about them. I'm not going to say how pure, and I'm not going to compare notes from the Pope to Prabhupada. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say Prabhupada was helping us to understand that anybody who does God's work on some level is doing God's work and is showing love, bringing them closer to God. And then who is God? Well, okay, we say Krishna, and somebody else says another word, Allah, and somebody else says it's Yahweh. And okay, but Jehovah, okay, they all imply the same person. The sun is the same sun, even though we call it Surya, we call it Suloi, or the sun. It's the same. It's just the same. Why do we differentiate? And I will just tell you an interesting story that I had, and then open for questions and answers. When I walked across America, I was in Ohio. It was one sunny morning on a Sunday, and I was walking with Uttamananda, who some of you know. And a person pulled over. He's a motorist. We were walking on the side of a highway near Lake Erie. It was a beautiful day. We captured a beautiful sunrise. It was unforgettable. But a person pulled over and said, excuse me, but do you speak English? And I guess he asked that question because I was in robes, right? My usual saffron attire. And I said, well, yes, I do speak English. But by the way, he had the accent. And they said, well, I have a gift for you. I said, okay, that's fine. And then he handed me a New Testament, a little copy of the New Testament. And I said, well, actually, I already have a New Testament. And so it's okay. I don't need to have two books, two of the same. So please give it to someone else who needs it. And I was saying that, I follow a tradition from India, and you're following a tradition from the Middle East. And there's a lot of parallels. There's a lot of similarities. And then he was a little defensive, and he said, oh, there are lots of differences, and the differences are very important. And I was taking the stand that the similarities are more important. No, the differences are important. And then he started to say something about Vishnu. It seemed like he knew something about our culture, and he was very offensive. And I just said, okay, stop it right there. Stop it right there. And I was not going to take it from him. You know, I was going to try to gently dismiss him. Said, sir, it was a very nice meeting you this morning. I was hoping we could have a nice dialogue. But I can see you're not open for that. I hope that you have a very nice time meditating on the wall that you just built between you and I. Have a good day. God bless. And I walked away. Okay. So anyways, that's my story. I didn't feel that God's or Christ's representative had come to me. I just felt that somebody had come who was definitely, most definitely a kanishta adhikari, which means not a very advanced form of a spiritualist. You know, he still had a ways to go. So that's my ending story on this, on our little talk about Christ and Krishna. And Krishna is the speaker of Bhagavad Gita. That's his teachings are capitalized like that. And the New Testament are the teachings that we find from Jesus. That's also a little comparison. At this time of the year, we're celebrating Christ Christmas, and also, you know, coincidentally, when Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, falls on, by the lunar calendar, on the 25th of December. So when Christ was born and when Krishna was born, so to speak, with his words of wisdom, of course, repeated once again, told a long time before. So in this way, we can see the parallels also. Thank you for listening. Now we would ask if you have any questions at all, and I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Very nice class where you extracted the nice similarities in the teachings as well. And on this note, before we get into the questions, Maharaj, we'd like to welcome a devotee by the name of Jaya, who's joined us for the first time from the Markham area. So we'd like to welcome Jaya, as well as we would like to welcome Sarthak Prabhu, who's here for the second time. He participated very well last week in the meditation on the auspicious symbols of the lotus feet. His pronunciation was very good, so we are very grateful that he's able to join us today as well. So Maharaj, any words for both of them, Maharaj?
Well, Sarthak, I got to know him through emailing. He told me he was coming to Canada to settle here, and he told me he'll be in quarantine. And so we have been on the phone. We actually have been emailing. He has been following some of the Zoom classes that I've been giving. So I'm grateful. He's a wonderful chap, and I understand you're helping him. Ananda Garanga, thank you for that. Both of us are going to help him in his Krishna consciousness.
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Sarthak, and then we have Jai. Jai from where? Brampton, did you say?
Jaya from Markham, Maharaj.
Jaya from Markham. Jaya, what can I say about Jaya? All I can say is Jaya. Yeah, victory. Thank you. You made a heroic stance by coming here today to talk to us and to hear from us and connect yourself with the Scarborough community. Yes.
Maharaj, thank you, Maharaj. And usually, you know, we have some sort of biased opinion about other cultures or religions. And, you know, you brought this class very nicely. The contents of the class were very nice, where there is a beautiful synergy. And it is said that real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. So we learned so much today where we are in this mood as we approach Christmas as well. So many, lots of takeaway from today's class, the similarities and the parallels about the Immaculate Conception. One thing which struck me was Gopal, pal of the ghost. That was very nice, Maharaj. These are the things that would stay with us forever. And you also mentioned about this infanticide, about Kamsa and Aswatthama, etc., and the sharpness of the thorns and nails and the arrows. These are beautiful similarities, Maharaj, and also the teachings. You know, so many wonderful similarities that you brought up about loving everyone, treating everyone as mothers, and you also mentioned about how sun is the same, doesn't matter in whatever language we say, sun is the sun, gold is gold. So, and then also how Jesus went to India and mixed with the Jains and Buddhists and Brahmanas and the Pandas, and Panda problem is there all the time, even Haridas Thakur was not allowed inside as well. Jesus had some problems, and it continues today as well. So thank you so much, Maharaj. And then also, we don't want to get too much into the differences or dissimilarities, as you mentioned rightly, Maharaj, in the conversation that you had with this person. But one question, before anybody asks any questions, in our scriptures, the focus is on the spiritual world, but in general, we see the reference is heaven. So is that linked to the spiritual world? When they say heaven, does it mean the spiritual world?
Yes, when the term heaven is used, it implies Vaikuntha.
Okay.
The place of eternity, the place of joy, the place of no conflict or confrontation, no hatred, a place of peace, a place of shanti. So when they use that term heaven, that's what we mean. In our nomenclature, like when we say heavenly planets or heavens, we're talking about places where there's longer life, the place of the devatas, the demigods, but one does die. So our term of heaven is not in parallel with the term that they use. When they say heaven, they mean the kingdom of God, where God reigns. And when we say heavenly planets, we say that's where the demigods reign. And they're oftentimes a little bit greedy and lusty and angry. So the heavenly planets, which are some of the higher luminaries in the sky, are within the material world. But we call them heavenly because they're a little bit better off. It's kind of like our idea of Swargaloka, like the higher planets. We can compare that to the high-end affluent neighborhood of the universe. That's where people have, like, everyone's lawn is perfectly manicured and everything's beautiful, perfectly done, and you've got all the conveyance, you've got beautiful homes, fantastic gardens. Money is no object.
And the one other thing that you brought about in the similarity, Maharaj, and the parallels, 25th of December, which is a Friday, which is a holiday. It's Christmas as well as the Moksha, the Ekadasi, which is the advent of Bhagavad Gita, is the anniversary of Lord Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita. So as a tradition, Maharaj, in all our ISKCON temples, we will read the 700 verses, and we're trying to work with a few of the other temples. So in the evening, we'll be reading all the 700 verses, and Mother Dwaraka has already sent out notes to get the names of the devotees who will be reading all the 700 verses. And what we have seen, Maharaj, with your guidance and blessings, when we read these in English, there's so much of inspiration that comes to us, even though we may have read these verses so many times, but when we hear that again in sequential order, it brings in new enlightenment, and there's so many takeaways as well. So that's happening on 25th December, Maharaj. So thank you so much for that. And one question that is coming, Maharaj, it's from one commandment is thou shalt not murder. Isn't it what ISKCON also subscribes, or kill? Isn't it what ISKCON also subscribes? That's a question, Maharaj.
ISKCON subscribes thou shalt not kill. Well, Krishna was telling Arjuna, go and kill. I don't know what you're talking about. So, Prabhupada spoke to a cardinal in the Vatican in Rome, about that commandment, which is from the Old Testament. It's not from the New Testament, it's from the Old Testament. And the general idea that Prabhupada was trying to put forth on that commandment was don't kill, or at least you don't have to survive, you don't have to kill innocent animals that are biologically and psychologically like us humans. Let them be free, let them live a full life. In fact, the greatest violence is to kill animals because you're checking their evolutionary progress. You know, they'll have to come back again in that same species.
Mm.
So that was the point. And the cardinal was arguing, said, no, it does not refer to, it's murder. But Prabhupada's point was, no, in general, we should not kill. So just like the Jains are very, some Jain sects are very, let's say, passionate about that. Don't step on an ant unnecessarily. They even cover their mouths. They were way ahead of the pandemic era, by covering their mouths so that there wouldn't be, you wouldn't disturb, kill unnecessarily microbes in the atmosphere.
Mm.
So we don't have to be so extreme like that, but unnecessarily killing should be avoided. Thou shalt not kill, and that's why it's one of the higher principles to follow. And Prabhupada asked us to honor that. If you want to be my student, he said, then you should stop eating meat, fish, and eggs. That doesn't mean you shouldn't kill, like a mosquito comes and he's got malaria, and said, you might have to kill him. And if you don't kill him, he'll kill you. It's a matter of defense, self-defense, right? So in war, it is like that. That's like, you have to see in times of war, if the enemy's coming, you have to defend yourself. So we have to see, draw these fine lines of discretion.
Thank you, Maharaj. I think we'll wrap it up with two devotees who would like to talk to you. One is, I know Mother Dwaraka is wanting to talk to you as well as, but we will get Sarthak Prabhu to say something. He would like to say something, Maharaj. Go ahead, Sarthak Prabhu, if you can unmute yourself.
Sure. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. And Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for your kind words. Really humbled. I just wanted to make a quick point. So like you said, you shared your experience as to how you got along with that chap, just discussing the similarities between the two religions. I have also tried to kind of do so with my friends of other faiths. But what I do see is that they're more interested in pinpointing the so-called flaws that they see in our tradition. So what I usually do is I just stop the discussion there and then, because regardless of however we want to focus on the similarities, they are hell-bent on, pointing out towards other things that they think are superior in their case and all. So I always wonder whether there is any way to establish a common ground with them. There's the first point that I would like to ask. And second point is, we say Jesus Christ is the Son of God. So does it imply Saint Joseph that we're talking about, or what is it exactly?
Second part of your question.
Sure. So we say that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. So by Son of God, are we referring to Saint Joseph, doing any special sacrifice or prayer to have God as a son, just like Devaki and Vasudev did, something along those lines?
We're talking about the Son of God. Jesus was talking about the Heavenly Father.
Okay.
He's talking about the Father in heaven, in the kingdom of God in heaven, the spiritual world. So it's not applying Joseph.
Okay. And Maharaj, the first part of the question.
Yeah. The first question was about how to deal with people coming from other faiths. Well, why do we have to challenge everybody? Why are they so bent on challenging? Why are they? Is there not their goal to love? Is it not their objective to love? So why don't they present that? And as far as Vaishnavas are concerned, our face should be to love, not to challenge, not to attack. So
absolutely,
you guys are like this, but we are like that. I mean, there's a great story where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was challenged by Chand Kazi, who was a Muslim leader at that time, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defended himself, but the person who struck first was Chand Kazi, the Prajaga drum. So then you have to take up the challenge. Okay, so somebody challenges them. you, then it's good to know some of the arguments. But whether they will, just like I have a relative, she said, oh, we have an issue with your idols and your temples. And such. Well, I have an issue with your crucifix.
Okay.
You know, I mean, that's an idol, isn't it? It's an image, you know, and you worship it. It's prominently situated everywhere. On top of your church, inside your church. People wear it around their necklace. You guys worship it. You got an idol.
Absolutely.
So next, what's the next argument? See,
Thank you, Maharaj.
Well, I think that if you get to, it's good to compare notes. And if they will be quiet, nice, and listen. Hey, now let's love. Now we've listened. Now let's love. Let's not challenge. You're a godly person. I'm a godly person. We've got what we have to do. We should be holding hands, fighting pornography, sexual misconduct, you know, the taking of drugs and alcohol, and the eating of meat and killing, slaughtering animals, and cheating people, and all these other kind of things, and allowing our kids to see things they shouldn't see when they're just children, you know, and having perverted ideas about sex and all the violence that goes on, the bullying. We should be holding hands and fighting against these things that we don't believe in. We believe they're ungodly. So
Absolutely, Maharaj.
let's be amigos. You know, let's be friends.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Anand Prabhu.
Thank you, Maharaj, and thank you for the very nice question, part A and part B, Prabhu. So we'll give the last word to our leader, Maharaj Dwaraka Mother, who's also not only leading ISKCON Scarborough, but also leading the team in this wonderful book distribution. Mother Dwaraka.
Oh, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Our obeisances, thank you for all your inspiration and your blessings. We are close to reaching our goals. So it's all because of you. That one call that morning you made to me inspire us to go full out and do our Bhagavad Gita distribution. So we are so much indebted to you, and we hope that you can join us more on our Sunday Zoom class.
Yes.
I am yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mother, and thank you, Maharaj. And we wish each one of you, to have safe and happy holiday season, and hope and pray that we have a better year in 2021. And looks like there is some hope with regard to these vaccines and things like that. So we still have one more Sunday Feast class. We'll see you next Sunday. But on behalf of everyone who joined us today on this inspiring class, so we'd like to thank Maharaj again. Thank you so much, Maharaj, and we hope to have you soon, many times in 2021, maybe a couple of times a month. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada ki
Hare
jai.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.